and welcome to Unai UK and Europe Edition. I'm Ashley Spirity reporting from London. We bring you news reports from the United Kingdom and Europe, and we have live reporters on standby ready to give their reports. Here are today's headlines. UK imposes unprecedented sanctions on Russia. UK pledges £160 million to global vaccine drive. And protesters in the streets of Europe. And to our correspondents, first we have Arabelle Celestino. Hello, Arabelle.
Hi, Ashley. And today I will be reporting about how fast fashion has inspired young people into sewing.
Thank you, Arabelle. And in EBC Spain, we have lovely Apple Joyce Fabros reporting on the world's biggest mobile show with up to 60,000 visitors. And over to EBC Germany, we have Eva Marie Kraus reporting on Berlinale 2022. For our sports news, Man United escaped with a draw after Elanga pegs back Atletico, and Liverpool put 6 pass leads to cut Man City's lead. This will be reported by Keith Dinabuni. And of course, we have our view from our window coming from Paris's Louvre Museum. On Thursday imposed a biting package of sanctions on Russia that Prime Minister Boris Johnson said would degrade its economy for years to come, as he slammed President Vladimir Putin in unusually personal terms. After Putin ordered his forces to invade Ukraine, Johnson called him a dictator who will never be able to cleanse the blood of Ukraine from his hands. Downing Street will fly Ukraine's flag and be lit up in the national colours of yellow and blue on Thursday evening, the Prime Minister's spokesman said. Protesters waving Ukrainian flags and brandishing placards of support gathered outside Downing Street. The UK sanctions include freezing the assets of Russian bank VTB and arms manufacturer Rostec. Sanctions on 5 more oligarchs close to Putin, including his former son-in-law, Kirill Shamalov, and banning Aeroflot from Britain airspace. Britain will legislate to prevent the Russian state and entities from raising money in London and ban the export of dual-use equipment that can have military applications. It will also legislate to limit how much money Russians can hold in UK bank accounts, although the ceiling has yet to be determined. Long accused of turning a blind eye to Kremlin-backed money flowing through London, the government will accelerate an economic crime bill, notably to prise open the real ownership of Russian-held assets. Johnson told Parliament the measures were the largest and the most severe package of economic sanctions that Russia has ever seen. Britain on Thursday pledged an extra £160 million to boost global vaccine development with the aim of being able to produce a global shot within 100 days of any future pandemic. The money will be on top of the £206 million that Britain has already given to the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, or CEPI, a global partnership launched in 2017 to develop vaccines to stop further outbreaks. The announcement came ahead of the CEPI summit in London on March 7 and 8, which will be attended by leading global politicians, WHO chief and chief medical advisor of US President Joe Biden. The event aims to raise funds for CEPI's global development variant-proof vaccines that will work against multiple future COVID-19 strains. Western nations have faced criticism over the lack of availability of vaccines in poorer and developing nations during the coronavirus pandemic, with former Prime Minister Gordon Brown accusing leaders of unforgivable moral failure. Protesters took to the streets of Europe to voice out their anger on Russia's actions in Ukraine. From Sweden to France, Spain, and Cyprus, many were shocked to wake up and learn about what was happening in Ukraine. Thousands of protesters gathered outside the Russian embassies to show their solidarity with Ukraine. Signs were held up along with the Ukrainian flag, urging President Putin to halt the ongoing attacks. Many are saddened by the current situation with fear that this could escalate into a full-blown war. Time for a break, but please come back for more ENI UK and Europe edition.
Pangongolekta ng sentimo ng isang ina para sa anak na may sakit sa atay, nirespondihan. Mga volunteer riders na force multiplier na nagbibigay pa ng ayuda ngayong pandemya, ating sinundan. Responde at PhilHealth nagsanib puwersa sa pagbibigay ng libreng serbisyo. At vlogger na ginawa ng content ang pagtulong sa mga nangangailangan, atin po silang kilalanin. Sabado, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi. Ito ang Responde, Mata ng Mamamayan.
Bago pa man ang pandemya ng COVID-19, mataas na ang pagkilala ng mga Pilipinong consumer sa responsibilidad ng mga kumpanya na tumutulong sa lipunan. But during the pandemic, we've seen more and more companies committing to such corporate social responsibility activities. What has inspired this generosity, and how can businesses get involved in building their communities? We'll find this out from our guests from JCI Manila as they share how COVID-19 is encouraging corporate social responsibility.
I believe every small act, lahat ng kabataan, may kakayahan upang tumulong sa ating mga komunidad.
Pwede natin tignan yung pandemya na maganda rin para sa mga millennial. Kasi ngayon nabigyan na tayo ng pagsubok na yun. And susuko ba tayo? Nasa sa atin na yun. And of course, ang advice natin is, wag na wag sumuko.
All this in this episode of Open for Business.
Welcome back to ENI UK and Europe edition. I'm Ashley Spiritu. Interesting stories from around the UK and Europe this week. Sewing has become popular once again. Arabelle Celestino gives us more details. Hello, Arabelle.
Hi, Ashley. And yes, from jogging outfits to summer dresses, Leah Baker has stitched together most of her wardrobe herself from inside her London flat, part of a burgeoning number of young amateur seamstresses. Like many others in the growing horde of sew-it-yourself enthusiasts, she has grown increasingly disillusioned with the retail clothing industry, viewing it as too destructive. Here's her thoughts about it. Let's listen in.
My main motivation was not having to buy ready-to-wear clothes anymore because I didn't want to support fast fashion, and also just to fit it better to my body. And from then on, I never looked back. So especially when the pandemic started, I had so much more time on my hands. So I think my skills got a lot better since then. And I think I'll be sewing for the rest of my life.
The doctoral student in neuroscience only started sewing in 2018, beginning with small bags before moving on to clothes. 4 years on, she estimates about 80% of her clothes in her wardrobe are homemade, from pajamas to long fleece coats, as well as jeans made with denim scraps culled from relatives. Becker now buys new clothes very rarely, she added, wearing one of her self-made long hand-sewn dresses. Rosie Scott, who runs a London workshop selling fabrics from fashion designers' unsold stock, have also seen the resurgence in sewing's popularity, particularly among young people. Let's see what Rosie Scott says about it.
The clients, well, customers have changed. They've become younger, definitely. More younger people are getting interested in sewing. And especially with the fabric, we find that we get a lot of fashion students and young people who are really interested in learning how to make their own clothes and make them sustainably.
The fashion and textile industry is the third most polluting sector globally after food and construction, accounting for up to 5% of the greenhouse gas emissions, according to a 2021 report by the World Economic Forum. Low-cost fashion retailers are regularly criticized for their waste and pollution, as well as the pay conditions imposed on their workers. Back to you, Ashley.
Thank you, Arabelle. Please tell me what may have contributed to sewing's popularity among young people, given that it was considered by some as unfashionable then and now suddenly it's much more trendy.
Well, Ashley, there are photo sharing platforms widely used nowadays, like Instagram, which allows sewists to post images of their designs and new look outfits and also share their tips. Actually, the hashtag is homemade wardrobe, featured in more than 900,000 posts in Instagram. This goes to show that through social media, it inspires many people to join the growing sewing revolution. Ashley?
Thank you, Arabelle. And as part of the youth or Gen Z, what can your peers take away from sewing their own clothes?
As part of the Gen Z, which is the generation that is most exposed to social media, I think it is a great way to connect with the roots of fashion, because back then people would make their own clothes. And it is beneficial as well because they're acquiring a new life skill, which may come handy. Over to you, Ashley.
Thank you very much for joining us today, Arabelle, and for giving us your report.
Reporting from London, United Kingdom, I am Arabelle Celestino, and we live in interesting times.
The Mobile World Congress, to take place in Barcelona, Spain, expects tens of thousands of visitors. Lovely Apple Joyce Fabros tells us more. Let's listen.
Organizers said as many as 60,000 people are expected to attend Mobile World Congress in Barcelona this month, hoping it will be similar to pre-pandemic days despite the absence of several heavyweights. Industry Association GSMA Chief Executive John Hoffman said 40,000 to 60,000 people are expected to the annual telecom show, which is the world's largest. He also added that there will be more than 1,500 exhibitors from 150 countries at a 4-day event in the Catalan capital, which this year will take place from February 28 to March 3. The whole mobile telecoms ecosystem is again coming to MWC here in Barcelona. We're on track to meet and hopefully exceed all of our expectations, he said ahead of the show's 16th edition, which will take up 7 of the 8 pavilions at the city's main exhibition hall. The show, a key event to showcase new technology, was cancelled at the last minute in 2020 after several companies pulled out when the global pandemic hit. Last year, the Congress took place, although it was in June instead of February, and included a mix of face-to-face and online events, attracting only 20,000 visitors compared to 100,000 in normal times. Strict health restrictions also meant delegates had to be tested at the venue gates to gain entry, but this year they just need to show proof of vaccination. GSMA Director General Mats Granryd said, this year 95% of the 1,000 speakers will be there in person because it is important that industry, society, and business come together physically. In recent weeks, several industry heavyweights said they will not attend, including Sony, which did not attend last year, and China's Lenovo, which said it would only be present online. South Korea's Samsung, the world's largest smartphone maker, said it would physically attend along with other industry giants including Ericsson, Nokia, Verizon, Google, Qualcomm, Cisco, and Huawei. The show will take place as Spain recovers from the 6th wave of the pandemic, in which the highly contagious variant of Omicron caused cases to skyrocket. Although numbers are falling, cases remain high, particularly in the northeastern region of Catalonia. With infections falling, Spain lifted the requirement to wear masks outdoors, and Catalonia also decided they will open nightlife venues after, also removing the requirement to show a COVID vaccination passport to enter bars and restaurants. Reporting from Barcelona, Spain, I'm Lovely Applejays Fabros, and we live in interesting times.
Thank you for your report from Spain, Lovely. Time for a break, but please come back for more E&I UK and Europe edition.
Gusto niyo bang magkaroon ng tsansang manalo ng 5,000 pesos na nasa bahay lang kayo?
Manood lang ng Tara Game agad-agad mula simula hanggang katapusan para makuha ang mga sagot sa dalawang Tara Game questions of the night.
Magpunta lang sa www.net25.com, pindutin ang Tara Game Sagot Agad-agad logo, mag-register at isubmit ang mga sagot mo para magkaroon ka ng entry. Ang dali lang! Natuwa ka na, posible ka pang manalo ng 5,000 pesos. Ang dali lang nito. O ano, sali na sa Tara Game Sagot Agad-agad promo!
Nakikiusap po ako. Maawa ka po sa kanya! Hindi ako maawa! Bakit ba? Lahat na lang nasabihin namin ay kinukontra mo! Ako, si Contraman!
Mga kasama, ito ng mga dokumento. Kailangan nating lagdaan yan. Gamit ang ating mga dugo.
Kailangan ka ba talagang dugo? Dugo? Pwede ka chwekin na lang.
Ang ating pong game ngayon ay pagalingan sa Tinikling!
Welcome to Mobile Legends!
Welcome back to E&I UK and Europe edition. I'm Ashley Spiritu. Interesting stories in the UK and Europe this week. To give us details on the 2022 edition of the famous film event in Germany, here's a report from Eva Marie Kaus. Let's watch.
The Berlin International Film Festival, in German, Internationale Filmspiele Berlin, called Berlinale, is a film awarding ceremony that is held every year in Berlin, the capital city of Germany. Apart from the Venice Film Festival in Italy and the Cannes Film Festival in France, the Berlinale is considered as one of the biggest film events in existence. The 72nd Berlin International Film Festival was held from February 10 until February 20, 2022. Last year, the Berlinale was divided in two parts. Some of the attendees were allowed to witness the film awarding ceremony in person, while many others joined through online services. This was all due to the rules and regulations which were given by the government at that time. This year, it was held as how the formal film events were held. Due to the current situation, the program had to be cut by a quarter, and the award ceremony, which is usually held on the last day of the film festival, was moved forward to February 16, 2022, so that the government restrictions could be followed. We are very excited to return to the big screen with the Berlinale in February, with a multifaceted film program, red carpets, stars, and the great Berlinale audience. The need for the festival experience and on-set encounters is great among industry and audience alike, said Executive Manager Mariette Riesenbeck. She also said that the response from the audience was very great. People have a longing for cinema for a communal experience and that they're pleased that the festival could successfully take place even under the difficult conditions brought by the pandemic. For this year's Berlinale, 18 films from 17 production countries were nominated for different categories. The drama Alcaraz, which was directed by Carlos Simon, received the Golden Bear, which is the greatest award that can be attained, in the category Best Movie. The touching film tells about the everyday life of a family that runs a peach plantation and gets into existential trouble due to the confrontation with a profit-loving investor. The Grand Jury Prize was given to Hong Sang-soo, a director from South Korea. The black and white film tells a story about a writer who meets different people and also wants to make a film herself. The whole story takes place during a pandemic. I am Eva Marie Krause for ABC Germany, and we live in interesting times.
In sports, we have Keith Dimabuyu bringing us the latest in football. Let's listen in.
Manchester United were spared a damaging and deserved defeat by Atletico Madrid on Wednesday as Anthony Elanga's late goal rescued them a 1-1 draw in their first leg of the Champions League last 16. Atletico outplayed a sluggish United for the majority of the match at the Wanda Metropolitano and might have considered João Felix's early goal scam reward heading into the second leg at Old Trafford in 3 weeks' time. But rather than extend their advantage, Atletico squandered it, Elanga racing on to a Bruno Fernandes through ball and applying a cool finish with 10 minutes left to earn United a draw that felt like a victory. Both Ranić and Simeone have a veteran scorer whose needs perhaps come at the expense of the team. But while Ranić started the 37-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo, Simeone dropped the 35-year-old Luis Suarez, with Felix and Angel Correa named up front instead. But while United will breathe a sigh of relief at the result, this was another performance to prompt serious concerns about their progress and direction under interim coach Ralf Rangnick. The second leg fixture will be played in March at Old Trafford as both sides seek for a spot in the Champions League quarter-finals. Mohamed Salah and Sadio Mane both struck twice as Liverpool cut the gap on Manchester City at the top of the Premier League to 3 points with a 6-0 thrashing of Leeds United at Anfield. Salah took his tally for the season to 27 in 31 appearances and set up a rare goal for Joel Matip as the Reds registered a 9th consecutive win in all competitions. I think for people outside, it is better to have 3 or 6 point gap than to have a 20 or 30 point gap, so it is more exciting, said Jurgen Klopp, Liverpool's manager. Leeds have now conceded the most goals in the Premier League this season with 56. Chances continue to flow at the other end, with Luis Diaz quickly making himself a favourite among the Anfield crowd as he terrorised a makeshift Leeds back four. Attention now turns to Sunday League's Cup final against Chelsea for Jurgen Klopp's men as they remain very much in the hunt for a second Premier League title in 3 years, with a clash against City still to come in April. Reporting for sports from the UK, for E&I am Keith Dimabuyu, and we live in interesting times.
Thank you for those sports updates, Keith. In today's view from our window, we go to Paris, France. When visiting Paris's much beloved Louvre Museum, one can only be in awe of its stunning entrance, the iconic pyramid. Designed and completed in the late 1980s by Chinese-American architect IMPI, the glass pyramid is designed as a striking contemporary touch to the museum's traditional classic French design and architecture. At 22 meters high, the steel-framed main pyramid is composed of 70 triangular and more than 600 diamond-shaped glass panes. PI wanted the pyramid to be as transparent as possible to give light to the Louvre's treasured works of art. There are actually 5 pyramids at the Louvre, but the main pyramid is what gets all the attention. Initially criticized for its modern design, the pyramid has throughout the years become a very much loved architectural masterpiece and part of the heritage of France. It has won numerous awards in the architecture world and is one of Paris and France's major landmarks. This view is courtesy of Christine Benedicto. Thank you for this great view, Christine. That's it for today's program. Stay safe and keep positive as we bring you more stories next week from the United Kingdom and Europe. I'm Ashley Spiritu. We live in interesting times.